Hi, you guys. Welcome back. My name is Carolina Stone, and I am the host of the Street Parking Mamas podcast. So we cover birth stories and just pretty much anything related to women's health and motherhood. And I'm super pumped about our guest today because, we're going to get to cover some pretty cool topics. So my guest today is Gina Ransom. Yeah. Okay. I guess I never really knew how to pronounce it. Gina Ransom. We met in New York at summer camp. She's one half of the Handsome Ransom clan. And
very sad we can't be here, but
yeah. Gina, how long have you been a member of Street Parking?
it'll be 3 years in July.
Okay, so you're like OG.
I'm like a semi OG.
Yeah.
It was like 6 months, I guess, after they started their
Okay.
posting that. So yeah.
Had you been doing CrossFit before that?
So my background is I've always been in fitness. I started teaching jazzercise classes when I was like 18. Yeah, so we're going old school.
Amazing.
So, and then for most of my adult life, I taught kickboxing and body sculpting and all those kind of step classes. And then right before I turned 40, I found CrossFit through a trainer at just a Globo gym.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was hooked. So I always say that I was doing CrossFit before CrossFit was cool.
Yeah.
It was like just starting to become more popular.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got my level 1 and I coached at a local gym for about 4 years and got my Olympic lifting cert.
Cool.
And and then the gym closed. And so for a few months, I worked out in my garage alone. I called it the Lonely Garage WOD. And I had followed Miranda forever and ever, so I kept seeing stuff about it, and then I finally took the plunge and joined, and it was life-changing.
Yeah.
And here I am,
Awesome.
almost 3 years later.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So technically, I guess you were also doing garage gym workouts before they were cool also.
I guess so, yeah, because now they're way cool.
Now it's super cool. Yeah, now it's like taking over. Part of me is like, why had I not thought of, like, why wasn't this a thing before? It makes so much sense. Like, especially like for moms, how do you survive? Like, there's no way that I could think of getting all my stuff together, getting to a class, being there for an hour, dealing with, it's not possible.
Yeah, it was a lot more work.
Yeah.
And you had to do the daycare thing, and then maybe your kid hated the daycare, and so you get called halfway through, whatever you were doing. And it's here you can just stop what you're doing and, take care of business and get back to what you're doing. Yeah. So it's a genius. You're right. I don't know why it took so long to figure all out.
Yeah. Okay, and so tell me, you are a mom. Tell me about your kids. Who are they? What are the names? How old are they?
I have 4 kids. We have a his, mine, and ours situation. So my oldest is 29. His name's Brian. And then my daughter, Christine, is going to be 24 in a couple weeks here. And they're both married. Mm-hmm. And then my stepson is going to be 20 next month. And then my youngest, the baby, Joey, and he's 16, just got his driver's license. So that's there goes that whole worry cycle again. So,
I mean, does it ever end? Like, no. Yeah.
Never. I was thinking the other day, like, you never stop, like, raising your kids.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, people think, 18, I can't wait till they're 18 and they're adults, but you're still raising them for their whole life.
Yeah. What's amazing, for you now, I guess, is being able to raise your daughter who is about to become a mom herself.
My daughter-in-law. Yeah.
Your daughter-in-law.
My oldest son. Yeah. My oldest son and his wife are expecting in March 10th. So I'm super, super excited. My mom passed away when I was 15. So she was only 36. So this event has brought back some emotions around that. But my mom never got to be a grandma.
Yeah.
She never got to, meet my children, and my children never got to have a relationship with her. And so I think for me, especially, it's just, on one hand, I feel guilty that I'm getting to experience that and she didn't. But on the other hand, I'm so, so very excited and can't wait to do what she never got to do.
Yeah.
And be grandma for my grandkids that she never got to be.
Yeah.
So she would have been awesome.
Oh, man. Yeah, I remember you shared a little bit about that not too long ago. Just like this whole process, it's like experiencing it almost like for the first time, but in a number of ways, so I feel like it must be bittersweet.
That's a good way to put it. Yep.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, because you always wish that person, I always say it never gets easier when you lose, when you lose someone you love. It never gets easier, it never goes away. You just learn how to navigate life without them.
Right.
And then those big moments like having babies and getting married and, having grandchildren, those kind of all, I don't think, maybe not for everybody, but for me, those things have always brought up, those emotions again, or make it so that I'm a little more emotional about it.
I'm sure. Yeah. So, well, let's talk about becoming a mom and, and where does that start for you? And, tell me the story.
My first baby, my oldest Brian, I had, I was the first one out of all my friends to have a baby. I was 22, right before I turned 23. Mm-hmm. I was young. And we called him the test baby. So, all my friends were like, okay, we're going to sit back and see how this goes for you before we decide if we're going to have kids or not. So he was naturally, I gave natural birth with him, had natural birth with him and, with all my babes. And what's funny is about with all three of my births, I think they were born within like 50, like the same amount of labor with all of them, like 5 hours, 5 to 5.5 hours for each of them. Wait, I don't know why.
Hold on. They were only like 5 or 5.5 hours? Even the first one?
But I know. I feel very fortunate for that, but each one, well, Brian was 2 weeks, went 2 weeks over my due date with him. So I was overdue and I had to be induced with him. My daughter, my water broke, but I didn't go into active labor. So they had to kind of induce me there as well. And then, same thing with my son, my youngest son. I had to be induced all 3 times. It was like my body didn't quite want to go into labor, but once it did, it was like, okay, it's just done. Yeah, I think the longest labor was my daughter, and I think it was like 5.5 hours.
Oh,
but everybody was like 5.
Gosh.
And the other thing is, they each went up in weight. My son was like 7 pounds 8 ounces. My daughter was 8 pounds 7 ounces. And then Joey was 9 pounds 14 ounces. So
I was
like, I'm done.
Nature's way of just preparing you. It was easing you into it.
Yeah, it was. Joey was my toddler. He was a big boy. I think at 6 months he weighed almost 20 pounds.
Oh my gosh,
he was giant.
Wow. So during, like, since you've always been involved in fitness, was that something that was a part of your life during pregnancy? Did it play a role in your pregnancy? And what was that like for you?
It was always, so I taught classes, which, back when Brian was born 29 years ago, it wasn't as popular to really exercise and do all that through your pregnancy. So I used to get crazy looks all the time. And of course, all the, you shouldn't be doing that and all that. But it really helped me I think it helped me obviously in delivery, because I was just stronger and I had more stamina to make it through, even though it was only 5 hours. It really wasn't that long. But
still a lot of work.
But it's still a lot of work, no matter how long it is. And my second pregnancy, same thing. I taught classes all the way through. I would say that my most, when I had Joey, I wasn't as, I don't think I was teaching classes at the time, so I probably wasn't as active with him. But I still exercise. I mean, I still was active. I just wasn't actively teaching classes and all that. So totally helped with my, state of mind.
Yeah.
Just felt good to keep moving and do that too, and felt strong and all that good stuff.
Were there any resources for, like, just information on what to do or not do, besides, I think, the very generic information that still exists like today, which is don't lift anything over 20 pounds and, like, don't get your heart rate up over whatever.
That's all I remember is that very generic information. Like, I am so jealous of all you new mamas that have all of this wonderful stuff, and like all of that is so awesome. And I really wish that was around when I was having babies, because it's amazing. I'm constantly sending my my daughter-in-law like little things that I see on your on your Instagram or whatever. It's amazing and great how much there is out there now for people.
It is, but I also kind of wonder, like, maybe it's like too much information sometimes. Like, we're, especially, just with everything related to pregnancy and birth, it's like there's so much information. You got to take this class and that class, and you read this book and go to this specialist, and you're learning, it feels like, so much. And if you want to, today, you can just dive deep down many rabbit holes of information, which is overwhelming. And scary. And, like, as soon as you start to Google one little thing that you feel, you're like, oh my God, I need to call my OB. I got to go to the emergency room. So I wonder if maybe, like,
I agree. Sometimes there is a lot of information overload, and some of it isn't always helpful, or it doesn't always. It can make, like I said, it can make you worry more.
Yeah.
It can give you more things to worry about.
I wonder, I guess maybe I feel like it would need to be, we need to have more balance of trusting learning how to, like, listen to your own instincts. I hear the advice given a lot of, like, well, just listen to your body, which is really good advice if you know what you're supposed to be listening for.
You don't know.
Sometimes you don't know. But, like, finding a balance between listening to, like, your own intuition and your, like, motherhood instincts, and being educated and having all these other, like, resources. There's got to be a better balance.
I used to just try to tell myself sometimes, like, because everybody gets nervous about, like, maybe it's your first pregnancy. You don't know what to expect. You're going to go into labor. What's that going to be like? Of course, you've got everybody, who mean they mean well, but they're telling you their scary stories, or, you might think it sounds scary,
Totally.
and you're hearing all of these different stories, and you're wondering, well, what's mine going to look like? And I remember trying to calm myself down and tell myself, okay, women have been doing this since the beginning of time. We're made to do this. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen how it's supposed to happen. And, I just would try to like talk myself off and just like remember that. And sometimes it's hard to do, like you said, because you've got all this information coming at you, and it can be overwhelming for sure.
Yeah. And I think, today we can compare ourselves with some like famous celebrity who's documented their entire pregnancy and postpartum. And that is also crazy making, whereas before it's like you compare yourself to, the people around you, your family, your neighbors. How was it for you? I mean, I think also comparing yourself obviously to your own mother and her experience. How was that for you in terms of going through motherhood? Where do you feel like you learned what you needed to learn?
So luckily I had a lot of good girlfriends who had moms that kind of took me under their wing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had actually a really good friend when I was first starting, that I met through teaching classes, through the jazzercise classes that I taught. But she had already had 2 babies, but we were friends. We were more, she wasn't like a mother figure, but she was my friend.
Yeah.
So she was very helpful to me. In fact, she was there with me when I gave birth to my first son.
Awesome.
So she was in the room with me, and she was a huge source of support. And I even lived with her for a brief time when Brian was an infant. So, because I remember when I came home with Brian that first night, probably the first 2 weeks of his life, I cried every single night. And the first night especially, he was crying. I couldn't get him to stop crying. I'm crying, going, what did I get myself into?
Seriously.
What was I thinking? It was, and I didn't have my mom, and it was just a complete mess. That poor kid for the first 2 weeks, all he got was me crying. But she was a huge support. And I've got I've always, and I think it's because I don't have my mom, I have gravitated towards women who are a little bit older than me, or they just find me, like people that I've worked with, people I meet at the grocery store. Like they just see me and go, oh, she needs a mom. But I had a lot of strong, good role models in that respect, so I feel really lucky. Even though my mom wasn't around, I had people step in. So
yeah. So that first night, those first couple of weeks, especially with the first baby, what did you do in terms of like getting through that? I mean, I feel like that's such a, I don't know, weird question, because it's like you just do what you have to do, right? You just like, I don't know, somehow survive it.
Yeah.
But is there anything that you remember that was like really helpful, or that like now you're maybe telling your daughter-in-law about?
I'm going to go back to the mom thing. You keep bringing that up.
No, please do.
So I had a dream shortly after I gave birth to Brian. And I didn't remember dreams about my mom that often. Like I know I dreamt about her, but I would never really remember what they were. And I had this very vivid dream that I was nursing Brian, and she came in the room, like she just appeared, and she just said, she sat down and she was like, he's beautiful, you're going to be a good mom. Everything's going to be fine.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to get teary. Everything's going to be fine. You're going to do great. I'm watching. You're fine. And that was the dream. And I woke up that next, from that dream, and I felt like this weight was off. Like I felt, okay, I can do this. I'm going to be fine. And I've always been really good with babies. Like I will take the babies till they're about, I don't know, 5 or 6. I love them too, but give me all the babies. Like I will take all the babies.
Uh-huh.
Like people are like, I can't do the infants. Like they're scary. And I'm like, no, give them to me. I'll take them.
Wow.
So I also was pretty confident in certain respects, but then just having her come to me in my dream and tell me, you're going to be fine. Just, you're fine.
Wow.
So that was a very big weight lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I really feel like, honestly, maybe that's one of the best parts about the Street Parking Moms group is that you can be in the middle of it and feeling super overwhelmed and super all of the things. And then hearing from another woman or another mom, like, you're doing a good job. Everything's okay. Or everything is going to be okay. It's hard right now. Everything is going to be okay. Sometimes, like, that's all that you need,
Yeah.
And
you just sometimes need those, I call them varsity moms. You need those varsity moms to step in and go, I've been there. We've all been there.
Yeah.
You're going to live through it.
Yeah.
Baby's going to be fine. You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing what, you're doing what you know how to do. And be the best mom that you can be.
Yeah.
And we learn. I mean, none of us know what we're doing
No.
when we start. Like, none of us.
God, there's like no way to really prepare someone, I don't think, for those first 2 weeks. The first night is I feel like it's just all kind of a blur. You're like still high from everything and, whatever. But then all of a sudden reality sets in and you're like, oh my God.
Oh, this is not going well. I can't return it.
And this is not ever going to end. There's no like break in sight. Oh my God.
I remember being so scared. I was just, it was, second baby was not like that. I was way more like, okay, I knew what to expect, obviously. But yeah, he was the test baby. He was a little colicky. And I was just, those were rough. It was rough.
Yeah.
But then after a couple months, it was fine.
Yeah. Was there anything that you felt like in terms of recovering postpartum? Like now we've got, these programs to slowly heal and return to fitness and that kind of thing. How was that for you? Did you just go right back into teaching classes?
I kept the first time I was 22, so that was just like, oh, I bounced right back. It was great. Yeah. Not bounced right back, but I didn't take me long to get back to feeling normal and normalish and getting back to normal routine. But with each subsequent pregnancy, it probably took a little longer, and I probably should have waited a little longer. But I never, but like I said, you guys have all this information, like the how do you say it?
Diastasis.
Diastasis. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like I remember knowing about it, but nobody really ever really checked it, and I didn't know if I had it.
Yeah. I
remember trying to see myself, like feel myself, if I could feel if I had it, but I didn't know. I had no idea. So I just really felt like staying active during my pregnancy helped me recover for sure, faster than I think I would have if I hadn't been.
Yeah.
That's how I felt anyway. Because I think for the third pregnancy, that was probably the longest. Like I said, I wasn't as active and probably not in as good of shape as I was the previous pregnancies. And that, I feel like that one, I had like a lot more swelling at the end. I felt like it took longer to heal.
Mm-hmm.
I was also 36.
Yeah.
So it was a big difference between 22 and 36.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, my OB, well, when I made the move up here to Washington, I got like a kind of a temporary OB while I figured out my new insurance. Anyway, this doctor was the doctor that was supposed to clear me, and he never checked for diastasis either. I had to ask him, like, hey, excuse me, can you check this for me? I had already had plans to see a physical therapist, but I was like, wow, this guy was really just going to like clear me without actually checking a
And
whole lot.
physical therapists, like, I wish I could have had that too.
Yeah.
All you guys get all the things.
Yeah.
All you youngsters.
Well, again, maybe sometimes it's too much. Okay, so tell me about becoming a mother by marriage and how that worked for you and your family.
Yeah, well, you always hear a lot of people say blended families are really hard, being a step parent is really hard. There are definitely, you have your own set of challenges with that for sure. For me, it's been pretty easy. I can't really, I don't really have any horror stories about it. When I got together with Rob, my stepson, Nick is his name. Nick was little. He was still a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been in my life since he was a baby. There's differences for sure. When you are helping raise somebody else's child,
Mm-hmm.
There's sometimes people don't know, like, do I step in here or do I just let them handle it? Or, it's a hard thing to navigate for some people and for me at times. But Rob's really good at, he's a really good communicator. He's really good he's always been really great with my kids and been very supportive and taken on the parenting role as if, they're like his own.
Yeah.
Nick's like my own.
Yeah.
We were very adamant about, when Nick was here, we do things as a family, or we made sure to go out there for things because they lived, when he wasn't living with us, he lived with us for a few years in his last few years of high school. But they lived, probably about an hour and 15 minutes away. So, we would just make sure that, Nick's 8th grade graduation, we're all going to go, we just in the car and go. So we always wanted to make sure it felt like we were always all there, even when we weren't.
Yeah.
So it's always been a pretty easy, of course, teenagers aren't easy, but,
right.
But it's always been pretty easy. He's always been respectful and we have a great relationship. Mm-hmm. My kids love Rob and have a great relationship. So I couldn't ask for anything more.
That's so awesome. I feel really lucky too. I also have a super blended family. I have I have 2 half sisters. I have a half brother. I have a stepsister. I have many, many parents and step parents. And I guess maybe as a kid and as a teenager, it was, there were times where things were kind of confusing or maybe annoying or something like that. But as an adult, it really hit me at my wedding, or in planning my wedding, the only thing that I really wanted was to have all of my family together, like all of my siblings and halves and steps and everybody and all of the parents. Like, I just wanted everyone to be together because we all actually get along like really well. And whether we're like fully related by blood or not, we still have so much in common and so much that connects us.
That's awesome. My daughter, same thing. When she got married, she had both Rob and her dad walk her down.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, and I think, I know not everybody can do that, and I'm sad for people that can't, because it's, what a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I know it could be really complicated and it could be really ugly, but we got lucky, I think.
Yeah, I feel super fortunate too.
Yeah.
So.
And actually, now that Callie's born, she's got like a lot of grandparents to come visit. That actually may have been one of the hardest parts of her birth. Was after she was born, we had my mom and stepdad wanted to visit. Jeb's mom and dad wanted to visit. My dad and my stepmom wanted to visit. And I was like, you guys can all visit. I love you all very much, but that's a lot of people, and I'm very tired, and I need some space.
Yeah. Yeah. It can get a little crowded.
Yeah. But it was just extra love for Callie. Okay. So now.
Yes.
The next phase of motherhood, womanhood for you are navigating menopause.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh boy, am I.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell me about that, and
So for me, I would say that I first started noticing things were changing probably around 44, maybe 43, 44. Things I started getting like hot flashes every now and then, but they would go away and then be fine for a couple months, and then I'd get them again, and then the night sweats started, and then I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's kind of perimenopause stuff. That's all starting. Okay, I can deal with it. Didn't really disrupt anything, for me. Started to not sleep very well. I had some bouts of insomnia every now and then. That was new for me. So then I would say in the last year and a half, is when things got real. I was just blindsided, actually, by, everybody talks about the hot flashes and the night sweats and the, low libido and the, all the things that you read, all the little bullet points on little things that you see on the internet or whatever, or in your doctor's office. Well, what I wasn't expecting was anxiety, depression, body image issues that were coming up. I've had anxious moments in my life, of course, and just, situational depression and that kind of thing. But this was like nothing that I had ever experienced. And so finally, I was not wanting to leave the house. I didn't want to, and nothing was working that used to work. Like, I was gaining weight and I was eating the same way and I was, exercising the same, and it was just nothing was working. So I was getting very discouraged. And finally, thank goodness for street parking and all the people that I've made friends with in there that are around my age, talking with them a lot. And but I remember being really angry too, that I was going through this and trying to come to terms with this whole new me, and what role I have now in life, and what am I going to do when I grow up? And I was so angry, and every time I would read something, it would just be like another negative thing, you know? So I was like finding that I was just picking out all the negative stuff. So I hauled my butt to therapy, because when Ransom said, if you think that I don't notice something different, you're very wrong. Like you need to talk to me, or what's going on.
Yeah.
So I started therapy. I'm happy to say I'm feeling way better now, but I don't know if it's my hormones have leveled out, or from the therapy, or a combination of a lot of things that I've been doing. I just started digging in and reading as much as I could on all things menopause, whether it was fitness during menopause. Going to therapy was a huge part for me. I started trying to do mindfulness and meditation, and on those nights where I'm not sleeping well, maybe put my earbuds in and throw on my meditation app and see if it helps me get back to sleep. Anyway, just really trying to put more, or be more positive about it, because I don't want to be that person that just complains about the menopause stuff and have all the negative sides of it. But I mean, trust me, there are some negative things about it, but you know, it's an inevitable thing that we're all gonna go through. And I feel like the more educated we are on it, the better we're going to feel about it. And me, I'm just trying to, they say, I've been reading, that a lot of the times this part of a woman's life is when she starts to find like her more creative side, and she starts to like think about what it is she wants to do, because she doesn't have to, you don't have to worry about raising your kids as much. Your kids are older, they don't need you as much. So finding things that you enjoy. And so that's kind of been what's happening with me lately, which has been, I don't know, it's been interesting. I wasn't expecting it, but like, for instance, I started making jewelry. Now I wanted to make jewelry, but I started to make jewelry with some of the things that I found on the beach when I was camping last month. And it's been a super therapeutic, creative outlet for me. That, and then things like, reading more, just finding, like thinking more ahead in the future, like, well, what could I do? What do I want to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to have more time. So what is that going to look like for me?
Yeah.
Just trying to be positive about it. And I feel better. Like I said, I don't know, it's probably a combination of all of those things, but I'm not in that negative space as much as I was before, because it was not good. It was no fun.
Yeah. So the perimenopause, how long would you say that lasted?
So for me, I would say, I had, and I don't know if this has something to do with maybe it happening later for me as well, because I had my last baby at 36. So that might have pushed things out a little bit for me. I don't know the science behind that, but I don't either. But I would say that my early 40s was when things started to change. My cycles weren't the same, and then the hot flash, just kind of progressed. Cycles were kind of wacky. Then the hot flashes would come and go, and then they would come and go more frequently. And I'm 52 now. So I don't know if I'm technically in menopause, because I have a Mirena IUD. So I don't know if I'm all the way fully in menopause, but I think I am.
Yeah.
My doctor seems to think so as well. I've never had blood work done or any of that. Not on hormones. I'm not saying hormones are a bad idea, but for me, it's not something I've really asked for.
Yeah.
And my doctor's never offered it. So, but there's so much, I'm finding there's so many, like just like pregnancy and all of the other things, right? There's so much information. So it's sometimes hard to wade through all of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the UK is like really like far ahead of us, I think, in their research and their, I don't want to say acceptance, because I mean, but it's just more mainstream. Like they talk about it a lot. There's more going on with all that there than here. I think they're just a little more forward thinking.
Interesting.
In the respect of menopause.
So what are like the resources that have been really helpful to you that, like, I don't know, that you could share with any other women that are listening right now?
So there's a few podcasts that I've listened to. Geneve, I don't know how to spell it right off the top of my head, but Geneve is, I think they're actually based out of Seattle. It's a couple of women that started this.
Okay.
And I think they do online appointments, that kind of a thing, but they also have a lot of information that I've gathered from them. Just a few different podcasts. There's a couple blogs that I've read that I like, that had pointed me in the direction of other places to look. And then just reading as much as I can get my hands on.
Yeah.
I know there's a couple that I need to get to the bookstore to buy or to order on Amazon. I haven't done that yet. Really just kind of writing down my own journey through it too is just kind of helpful to me to just kind of get it all on paper and just check in with myself and see how I'm feeling and what I'm feeling, if I'm feeling better, what do I think has worked to make me feel better.
Yeah.
I think that the creative outlet thing has been huge.
That's really
of
cool.
course, exercise is all the studies that you're going to read are going to say that one of the things that you should be doing is to be physically active.
Right.
So, and I have always been, since I was young, because I read up on it, and of course my training has taught me, but it is so important to keep your bones strong. Mm-hmm. So weight-bearing exercise, I've always pushed that on my girls, especially. Mm-hmm. Staying active so that, it does ease some of that transition and those symptoms and all of that, because it really does.
Yeah.
Help.
Well,
and then,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. And then just, the statistics, which I can't pull out of the top of my head right now, but just reading how dramatically your bone density changes after menopause. And there's so many things that you didn't even really, or I didn't even really know, were correlated, like heart disease in women, related to sleep.
Wow.
Sleep apnea. A lot of women get sleep apnea when they go through menopause, and how that, is bad for your heart, it's bad for your blood sugars, you don't get restorative sleep. All of those things are connected to menopause. I'm like, who knew that? I didn't know. But so just I'm learning a lot about all that stuff, and just trying to, make it so that I can have a head start. Maybe not those things not affecting me as much.
Yeah. Did you, just because like I'm hearing all of the effects of the hormones, and how that is playing a role in like everything, your physical and emotional health and everything. And it reminds me a lot of the experience of like postpartum period, and like there's the night sweats and there's the anxiety and depression and like all this stuff that's happening to your body. And like hormones are insane and they just play this crazy role. And, early postpartum, like maybe you're trying to lose weight or whatever, but your body's just not going to let you. Like if the hormones are doing their own thing, do you feel like there are any parallels for you to that time? Did you have anxiety postpartum, or like, does anything feel familiar in that way?
Yeah, for sure. The the depression, I had a little bit of that with my pregnancies. I think that with my third, with Joey, it was not as bad. For sure, the first one, and then with Christine a little bit. But I also liken it to puberty, going through puberty, like just when you have no control. In fact, I told Rob one time, poor Rob, he's so patient. I used to send him, like, I would text him like articles, what not to say to your wife when she's, having menopause, like just, I would liken it to being in labor and getting ready to push, and how you have no control over that urge to push that baby out, right? There's no stopping it. Well, that's how I was feeling with like my emotions.
Yeah.
Whether it was rage or whether it was wanting to cry or whatever. That's what I told him. It was like, it's like, I want to be able to step back and not explode.
Yeah.
Feels like when you're in labor and you got to push that baby out. I got to get it out.
Yeah.
And there's no stopping it. It's just going to come out.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that's an excuse to be a jerk, but I was really open to him about what was going on there, because you have to be. Otherwise, that person's not going to want to, stick around if you're going to be a raging, crazy woman. Well, I just had to let it know, like, it's going to pass. Yeah. At least that's what I'm reading.
Yeah. Well, and it also sounds like you're maybe able to shift it and use it in other ways, like tapping into your creativity. And I know that you say like the exercise and fitness and everything also plays a huge role, but I feel like I also noticed that you have you like really pay attention to the type of fitness or like the type of intensity that you need. So like maybe sometimes it's something that's more gentle.
Absolutely. That's been a learning process for me, for sure. I think that's been the hardest thing for me to dial back, is that part. And I was fighting it for so long. And finally I'm 95% better. There are still times where I'm like, I'm just going to go for it. But I'm quickly reminded as to why I shouldn't do that. But that was the hardest thing. Now I am really careful about what I do. Like, I don't need to do chest to bar pull-ups anymore. I just don't. I could do them if I wanted, but it's going to destroy me. And then I won't be able to do any more fitness after that, or I'll be injured or whatever. It's just not, and I think it was also taking that intensity too high for me was counterproductive. I was, stress is stress is stress. Yeah. So stressing my body by pushing too much. Yeah. And I was not, holding on to weight, which I'm already holding on to weight because I'm hormonal. Yeah. So it wasn't making it was just I was just in this little, wheel spinning. And so I finally was like, okay, you got to try something different. This isn't working. Yeah. So I noticed once I did dial back the intensity that my body did react a little bit favorably. Like I did let go a little bit of weight, and I did feel better. My joints weren't killing me. That kind of stuff, along with nutrition and all that other good stuff. But the intensity was a big deal. Yeah. And sewing is heavy. I also don't need to deadlift, 250 pounds anymore. Right. I don't. Yeah. Yeah. And I can just look back on the glory days and remember them fondly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, God, so fascinating, and like so it's beautiful, I think, to think of all of these cycles that we go through. And I know that like when we're in them, like right now I'm in my postpartum cycle phase or whatever, and you're in your when you're in it, it just is so intense and overwhelming. But looking at this like bigger picture, I don't know, it's just so cool to think of like there's so much room for us to grow as individuals.
And so much to learn about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like forced, you're like pushed, maybe shoved into having to find a new way to operate, I guess. Yeah.
Yep. I feel way better about it now than I did 5 months ago, for sure.
Yeah.
But and I was reading like in certain cultures, older women are like celebrities. Like they are they're the people that they go to for their wisdom and for
Yeah.
So I just, I wish we all could feel, I mean, we're so centered on youth, in this society sometimes. But I think that women my age and older sometimes feel like you're, pushed to the side and not. I just don't ever want people to feel, or women to feel like they're not relevant anymore.
Right.
Because you're over 50 or you're over 60 or you're 75 or whatever. Like and trust me, when I was 35, I didn't think of these things.
Right.
Like you don't, because you're not in it.
Yeah.
But once you're in it, then you're like, oh, I get it. You would hear people talk about it and you'd be like, whatever. But I don't know. Hot flashes, that's so far off, I don't even have to worry. And I'm not going to let myself gain weight when I go through menopause. It was kind of like this thing when I have a baby, they're never going to sleep in my bed.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
Don't know either.
Yeah.
So, I remember, I have to tell a story.
Yeah.
I still feel bad about it to this day. This was when I was in my angry phase of being angry about it, and some poor girl, I don't even know who she was, on the Facebook page, posted something about hormones and feeling like her hormones were taking over, and then somebody commented something along the lines, well, it doesn't have to be like something about gaining weight, and it doesn't have to be that way. I went through this and I didn't have any weight gain, and I was like, well, how nice for you. I was not super rude about it or anything, but I felt like I was.
Yeah.
And I responded, but I still feel bad about that to this day. I'm like, I really was just angry about the whole thing. I'm glad that you didn't have any weight gain. And some people do. Some people breeze through it with no real symptoms at all.
Yeah.
And at that point in my life, at that time, I hated those people that breeze through it. Now I'm like, if you are lucky enough to breeze through it, I'm so happy for you. Because it's a much more pleasant experience if that's the case. So,
I mean, I just feel like so glad that you are sharing all of this, like I want to capture this moment in time, and just be able to share it, because hopefully it gives us some like compassion for each other, and also, like you're saying, the older women in our society or in our culture or in our family, in our community, in our street parking community are, I think, owed a lot of respect, and we have a lot to learn from them, from you, and getting a little glimpse of your experience in doing this is really humbling, and I admire how you're like navigating this whole thing.
and that's why I share. So, I mean, that's also helpful to me and to have street parking in that community, and of course it's the NFR post, but,
those are the best ones.
I know, but it is, but it is also fitness related too, because I'm trying to stay active and I want everybody else to be able to stay active. But I also want to share what I'm going through, because I mean, just like you guys are all really great about sharing your real life, your real stories. Miranda's always, this is the real deal. And that's how I am too. I don't want people to feel like they're alone. Yeah. I don't want, I might not have the same symptom as you, but go ahead, talk about it. Let's talk about it. It's fine. Put it out there, because there's going to be 5 other people who do have that same
totally
thing. Or 20.
Yeah. And even, just your thing about like the jewelry or writing stuff down or therapy. I feel like being able to say to someone like, just go to therapy, like maybe you never thought you needed it. And maybe you just go to one session and you realize like you don't need it, but what's the harm in that one session?
Sometimes it takes that one person or whatever just to say that, and then you feel better about it. You're like, okay, It's not just me. Yeah. Maybe I'll do it and see what happens.
Yeah.
So, for sure.
Well, I'm inspired to, Jeb and I have been talking about adding some more like mindfulness, I don't know, recordings, if it's like an audio recording or like a physical practice or something like that into what we do, but now keeping in mind that there's this like, people going through what you're going through that might benefit from it, like a very specific type.
Yeah, I'm always surprised. There was a time that I posted something and the responses from the other women who were all like, thank you for posting this. I'm in the same exact, I'm in the same exact time of my life, and I feel like we're forgotten. And even though we're not, street parking is very good at being all inclusive. Like we all feel like we're part of this big, huge family. But I totally understood what she was saying, and I understood her feeling. But I was like, oh wow, we have a lot of women that are in that stage of their life. So, and it is different, and there's things that we have to do differently, and we're not, not 25 anymore, or 35 anymore, or even 45. It's a huge difference from when I was 45 to now.
Yeah.
So,
is there anything that you would want to say or to share with any of the women that are listening? Anything else that you really wanted to like get off your chest?
I don't know. I think I'm pretty good at doing that all day. I just really don't want anybody to not talk about it. Like feel like, because we are a smaller group of women than the demographic, I'm sure. Because what are we? You guys are like at 20,000 members now or something. I don't know what hunk of that number we are, but that doesn't mean that our stories aren't relevant and that we shouldn't be able to share what we're going through, and we shouldn't be able to give each other support around that, and not to be afraid to throw whatever it is out there and reach out to other people who are, who are going through that too.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay. And is there anything else that you want to add about, I guess, like the role that street parking has played in your life in going through this now?
I would say it is a huge part of my life. That I have made connections with other women who are in the same phase of their life that I would have never otherwise known or connected with. Like, I went into this, I don't need any more friends. I am too busy. I don't need friends. I just want to get my workouts done and not have to think about what I'm doing. And I have made so many friends and connections through this that just went out the window. But I am just super blessed and super grateful for those friendships that I've made and the connections I've made and the people, all the different personalities and that I've been able to connect with through street parking. I mean, the fitness is great too, but, but for me, I think it's even more so the people that I've connected with and having that support within that group.
And is there anything that you're like really looking forward to in this next year, or just even in this next like season or phase of your life? Something that you're excited about?
In that whole, like, thinking about what I want to be when I grow up and, all that, I've always had a desire to work with older people in the fitness realm. So that's still a little seed that's in the back of my head. What that's going to look like, I don't know, but whether it's trying to seek out some sort of certification that I can take for the older population and do something in that respect, I don't know, but it's something I think about. Writing some more. I've always liked to write, so maybe a blog. I don't know, something along those lines. And I'm really looking forward to camp again.
Same.
I get to meet a bunch of new people that we didn't get to meet in person last time. So I'm so excited.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that is going to wrap it up.
Okay.
I am so glad that you took the time to do this and that you shared. And I think that everything that you had to say and offer is really, really valuable to women that are going through what you're going through as well, but also, to women like me who need to remember that this is like a big picture thing that we're looking at. And right now is just a very small moment in time relative to all of the cycles that we'll go through. And I just appreciate you so much. And I'm excited for you and what you're going to do with this.
Well, I'm so excited that you asked me to do this. So thank you for that. I feel very grateful. Thank you.
My pleasure. All right. Well, tell Rob I said hi, and I will see you at camp.
All right. See you at camp.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Have a great day. Bye.
You too.